morning sun was just creeping over the treetops when I stepped outside my cabin. The crisp mountain air smelled of pine, but that peace shattered the moment. I saw it, a bright orange slip fluttering under my truck's wiper. My Ford F-250, my pride and joy, tough and a little dusty from last week's hunting trip, looked out of place with that warning sticker slapped across its windshield. The paper screamed in bold letters, "Illegally parked, subject to tow, HOA Regulation 14B." I muttered under my breath, "Seriously? Out here?" Just then I heard the sharp click of heels on gravel. Karen, of course, dressed in her usual floral blouse, oversized sunglasses perched on her head, and that smug smirk that could sour milk. She held her little clipboard like it was the Constitution itself. "Well, well," she chirped, arms crossed. "Finally caught you breaking the rules. That truck is an eyesore and it violates community standards. I've already called the tow company." I clenched my jaw, steadying myself. "Karen, this is my driveway, my property. That truck hasn't moved because I was out in the mountains last week. You don't have the authority to tow it." Karen leaned closer, her perfume clouding the air, her tone dripping with fake sympathy. "Oh, sweetie, you really should read the bylaws. Trucks over a certain size aren't allowed to be visible. They lower property values, and rules are rules." I could feel my blood pressure rising. This isn't some gated suburban cul-de-sac. This is the mountains. That truck is my livelihood. You try to tow it, and you're trespassing. Her grin widened, almost enjoying my anger. "We'll see what the sheriff has to say about that." I already called him too. Minutes later, the rumble of a tow truck echoed up the gravel road. A massive rig pulled in behind my Ford, the driver hopping out with paperwork in hand. He looked uncomfortable but shrugged. "Sorry, man, HOA request. Gotta hook it up unless the sheriff stops me." And as if on cue, a cruiser rolled in. The sheriff stepped out, adjusting his hat, eyes narrowing at the scene. Karen practically skipped toward him, arms flailing. "Sheriff, thank goodness you're here. This man is violating HOA laws. Tow his truck immediately." The sheriff didn't say a word at first. He just turned his head toward me, then slowly straightened up, recognition flashing in his eyes. Karen stopped mid-sentence as his posture shifted. His voice carried authority when he said, "Deputy Chief." Her jaw dropped. The clipboard slipped from her hand and clattered on the GR. For a moment, the mountain air went dead quiet. Even the birds seemed to stop chirping. Karen blinked, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, trying to piece together what she'd just heard. Deputy Chief?" she stammered. The sheriff adjusted his belt, took a step forward, and with a snap of his boots, saluted me. His voice carried both respect and formality. "Sir, didn't realize you'd moved into my county. Welcome home." The tow truck driver froze mid-reach for his chains. His eyes darted between me and the sheriff, trying to process the scene. Karen, however, wasn't ready to let go of her crusade. She puffed herself up like a rooster, pointing at me with that manicured finger of hers. "Wait just a minute. He's in violation of HOA rules. His truck is too big, too noisy, too... everything! You can't just..." "Ma'am," the sheriff's tone cut like steel. "With all due respect, you're out of line. This truck isn't moving a single inch without Deputy Chief's say-so." I crossed my arms, watching Karen's confidence crumble. "See, Karen, what you don't understand is that this truck isn't just a vehicle. It's a certified service unit, registered under state authority. And the sheriff here knows exactly why." The sheriff nodded firmly. "That truck's done more for this state than any of us standing here. Rescue missions, evacuations during floods. Hell, it's hauled more supplies than half the county's fleet." The tow truck driver whistled low under his breath and quietly slid his paperwork back into his pocket. "No way I'm touching that, ma'am. Not my business anymore." He climbed back into his rig and idled quietly, waiting for the storm to pass. Karen's face turned beet red. She stomped her foot like a child denied a toy. "This is absurd. I'm the HOA president. My rules are law here." The sheriff slowly turned to face her. "No, ma'am. Your rules are suggestions inside your neighborhood. Out here, the law is the law. And when the deputy chief is standing right here, you're the one stepping out of line." She looked ready to explode, her eyes darting between me, the sheriff, and the retreating tow truck. You can't do this. I'll report you. I'll have you removed from the HOA board." I smirked, tilting my head. "Karen, you don't seem to get it. You can't outrank the badge, and you sure as hell don't outrank me." The sheriff leaned in close enough that she had to tilt her head back. His voice was low, but everyone could hear the weight behind it. "Ma'am, this man isn't just my deputy chief. He's the reason this community is still standing. After last year's disaster," Karen stumbled back a step, suddenly silent. Karen wasn't one to back down easily. Even with the sheriff's words still hanging in the air, she straightened her blouse, lifted her chin, and tried to regain control. This is favoritism," she snapped, her voice quivering between rage and desperation. "Just because he's your so-called deputy chief doesn't mean he can violate HOA rules. We have standards. If I let this truck slide, then what's next? ATVs, boats, junkyards?" The sheriff took off his hat, ran a hand through his graying hair, and sighed. "Ma'am, I'm telling you plain and simple. This isn't about favoritism. This man has jurisdiction, more than me in certain cases. If you keep pressing, you're not just harassing a neighbor. You're interfering with state authority." Her face flushed deeper. "Jurisdiction? Authority? Don't give me that nonsense. This is my neighborhood, and I'll protect it from trucks, from noise, from anything that lowers property value." I stepped forward then, my boots crunching the gravel. My tone stayed calm, but every word carried weight. "Karen, you think this truck lowers value? When the wildfires tore through these woods last year, this truck hauled water tanks for 5 straight days. When the flood washed out the road, it was this truck pulling families to safety. People are alive because of it. That's the value." The tow truck driver, who had been leaning against his rig with his arms crossed, finally spoke up. "Ma'am, no offense, but I was here during that flood. Saw this same truck dragging folks out of chest-high water. You call it an eyesore, I call it a lifeline." Karen whipped around, her sunglasses sliding down her nose as she glared at him. "Stay out of this. You're just a contractor." But the damage was done. Even the small crowd of neighbors, who had begun to gather at the edge of the street, murmured in agreement. Heads nodded, whispers carried through the air. The sheriff noticed it too. He set his hat back on and spoke firmly. "Enough is enough, Karen. If you keep harassing residents like this, especially this one, I'll have no choice but to charge you with disorderly conduct." Her eyes widened, and for the first time, genuine fear cracked through her defiance. "Disorderly conduct? You wouldn't dare. I'm the HOA president." I couldn't help but chuckle. "Karen, titles don't mean power. They mean responsibility. And you've been abusing yours." For a moment, her hands trembled. But then, almost like a snake regaining its coil, she hissed, "Fine. If you think this is over, you're mistaken. The board will hear about this. I'll find another way to make you pay." The mountain breeze shifted as Karen's words echoed off the trees. Her face was tight with anger, but I could see the cracks forming. Neighbors had gathered, more than a dozen. By now, watching her with folded arms and shaking heads. She wasn't the admired HOA president she thought she was. She was exposed. The sheriff stepped forward, boots crunching the gravel. "Karen, I'm warning you for the last time. Walk away, or you'll be facing charges." But Karen wasn't finished. Her hands clenched around her clipboard, and with a dramatic gesture, she pointed it at me like it was a weapon. "He's dangerous. He's disruptive. And if you won't enforce the rules, Sheriff, I'll call the county board myself. We'll have his cabin condemned." The crowd gasped. Even the tow truck driver muttered, "Lady, you've lost it." I shook my head, finally letting a smile creep across my face. "You want to condemn my cabin? Karen, do you even know who signed off on the last county emergency housing project?" I did. As deputy chief, I oversee the funding and placement of those resources. The board knows me personally. You'd be laughed out of the office before you got 2 words in. The sheriff chuckled low, then raised his voice. "That's right. Deputy Chief here has more pull in this county than the entire HOA combined. Karen froze. Her jaw tightened. But the fire in her eyes dimmed when she realized she had no leverage left. Then, from the back of the crowd, an elderly neighbor spoke up, a man with a cane and a voice worn by age. Karen, last winter when my wife collapsed, who do you think drove through the blizzard to get us to the hospital? It wasn't you. It wasn't the HOA. It was him. In that truck. Others chimed in. He helped me clear my driveway during the storm. He pulled my son's car out of a ditch. He checked on us when the power went out. Every voice was a nail in Karen's coffin. She looked around, desperate. But every pair of eyes condemned her. The sheriff finally took out his notepad. All right, that's enough. Karen, you're officially cited for harassment and trespassing. You've abused your position and endangered community trust. You'll face the judge. Karen sputtered. You can't do this to me. I am the HOA. The sheriff slipped the ticket into her hand. Not anymore, you're not. Her sunglasses slipped down completely, revealing her wide, panicked eyes. She turned, heels scraping the gravel, and stormed off down the road, her clipboard dangling like a broken sword. Silence followed, then a wave of relieved laughter from the neighbors. The sheriff turned to me, saluted once more, and said loud enough for all to hear, Deputy Chief, welcome home. And for the first time in weeks, the cabin felt truly mine again. Hooked by this wild HOA showdown? Make sure to hit subscribe for more unbelievable neighbor stories with twists you won't see coming. If you enjoyed this one, give it a like and drop a comment. What would you have done if Karen tried to tow your truck?